Pre-Penalties and Sanction presentation delivered to you by the Career Source Pasco Hernando Welfare Transition Department. Welcome to the Welfare Transition Pre-Penalties and Sanctions training presentation. Today you will be learning about the non-compliance and sanction process in Region 16. What is a sanction? A sanction is the term used in the Welfare Transition Program when a mandatory individual fails to comply with the program requirements or refuses to stay fully engaged based upon the signed planned agreement without good cause and the TANF benefits are requested to be closed. When an individual first comes onto the program and the staff member actually begins engaging the participant in the program, the accountability process actually starts and continues as we develop the individual responsibility plan. It is our responsibility for holding participants accountable and for following the steps to self-sufficiency when they choose not to participate in meeting program requirements. The agreement between the participant and the career specialist must be reviewed for accountability and compliance at least once every 90 days or when there is a change in the participant's goals, barriers, employment status, or steps to self-sufficiency. One frequently asked question that staff have concerning the counseling process, also known as the pre-penalty process, is if the participant has not signed an IRP because the first appointment or orientation was missed, can the staff member start the counseling or pre-penalty process? The answer is yes. The sanction process is about trying to engage the participant, notifying the participant of the right and responsibilities of the program, offering another opportunity to participate, discovering if good cause exists, and offer services that are needed to come back into compliance with the program. However, once the participant meets with the staff member, a few things must happen and be agreed upon to resolve the failure. Here are some of the things that must occur. You must establish a clear plan of action. The activity or assignment should be documented in writing. Clear deadlines should be put into writing, and both the staff and participant must sign on the agreed plan. The sanction process for a first failure can occur when the participant may fail to comply or refuse to engage fully into the program. When this happens, and the individual fails to comply for the first time in 30 days, may result in a penalty and often occur by failing to attend the scheduled initial appointment, failure to attend follow-up appointments, failure to conduct work activities timely, or failure to return documentation to the assigned staff member. When a participant fails to comply with the program, the failure should be recognized immediately and actions taken on the case. Anytime there is a failure, we must document the failure within 2 working days. If we do not take action on a failure within 2 days or take timely action, it can affect not only our participation rate performance, but also our accountability to each participant's case. Staff can recognize a failure on the case rather quickly by ensuring they are utilizing their calendar and/or to-dos in the OSST system. By using the to-dos section of OSST, it will allow the staff member to align due dates and deadlines based upon the plan and items to be turned into the staff member. There are ways to help a participant stay engaged in the program and avoid a first failure in the program. Sometimes participants need a little extra help, and the staff member should always try to assist the customer by contacting the participant on a regular basis to resolve issues, offer supports, and staff should always be encouraging the participants to avoid a failure if possible. Also, regular contacts can be made to work sites and teachers to confirm attendance, but sometimes a failure cannot be avoided. When the failure is unavoidable, a notice of failure to participate and possible sanction letter, also known as Form 2290, is created from the OSST system, documenting the exact failure and exact time frame to establish compliance to avoid a sanction or penalty. This letter is mailed to the participant, and an oral contact attempt is made by phone call to the participant regarding the failure, as well as placing a case note in OSST for the oral contact attempt. Once the pre-penalty is started in OSST, the 10-day counseling period starts, and this time frame is about opening up lines of communication, discussing why the participant failed, and determining if good cause exists. The staff member will also screen for additional services the participant might need to bring himself or herself back into compliance to avoid another failure or sanction. The 10-day period is also about discussing program requirements, updating the plan, and ensuring the participant is going to comply. During the counseling process with the participant, there are some do's and don'ts with the participant. Here are some of the do's. Be sure to set up an activity, establish clear deadlines, discuss outcomes of not participating, and be sure to always enter clear case notes and be detailed. Be sure not to use jargon or terms like 2290 or pre-penalty, and be sure to use terms the participant will understand. When making the oral attempt to the participant, it should always be conducted via the telephone. And again, be sure to enter a detailed case note in the OSST case notes section for tracking purposes. After the 10-day period for counseling has been exhausted, the participant will either comply or choose not to comply with program requirements. At this point, the staff member will have to take action on the failure. If the participant complies, the pre-penalty will be ended with complied, and the date of compliance will be the date the participant agreed to comply. The IRP, also known as the plan, must be updated with the participant, reviewed, signed, and always ensure clear case notes. Sometimes the participant chooses not to comply after the first failure, and this could result in a second failure. Once this occurs, the staff member will document the second failure in a case note and wait 3 business days for good cause. If good cause does not exist, then a sanction will be requested on the participant and sent to DCF for processing, and of course, the staff member should always document a clear case note. Let's talk a little more about the second failure in 30 days. What if the participant fails to complete an activity after the pre-penalty is lifted with compliance? The staff member must check for and ensure the second failure is within 30 days of the first failure and allow 3 working or business days for good cause. If good cause exists, the staff member should not request the sanction. If good cause does not exist or is not provided, then the sanction will be requested in OSST and the notice of sanction will be generated and mailed to the participant. This letter is also known as the DEO Form 2292. Any action on a case always requires clear and concise case notes. There are different levels of sanctions within the program, and depending on the history of the participant, will determine what level of sanction may be requested. When determining the level of sanction, a staff member must always go back into history and determine what level is needed. In order to do so, the staff member or designee will review the OSST alternative plan screen for previous sanctions, looks at the latest sanction level, review for 6 months of compliance since the latest sanction, and if 6 months of compliance exists, start at level 1 sanction. If 6 months of compliance does not exist, request the next level sanction. There are a lot of good cause reasons or excuses, but only some will qualify as good cause for missing activities. The staff member determines good cause and then will route the request for good cause to the program manager or designee. There are also short-term good cause reasons that may affect a participant's status in the program, such as court appointments, school conferences, the flu, minor surgery, natural disasters, and storms, and other emergencies such as a house fire. All reasons should be considered and logical thinking should be used when determining good cause. Remember, everyone's situation is different, so all aspects must be considered. Now let's look at some long-term reasons that participants have for missing or not conducting their activities and following their steps in the plan. Maybe the person has a long-term medical issue that we do not know about, or the participant could be part of an inpatient treatment plan. Sometimes participants live in rural areas and cannot find adequate childcare within a reasonable distance or reasonable cost. Or in addition, domestic violence can sometimes cause extreme hardship and lack of participation. Remember, these are only some of the reasons, and you should always look at the big picture when considering good cause. Now that we know what a pre-penalty and sanction are and how or when to process them, let's take a look at the different penalty levels that are tied to the Welfare Transition Program. There are 3 levels of penalties that can be processed, and the level determines when the sanction can be lifted for compliance as follows. Level 1. This level of penalty can be lifted the date the individual agrees to comply after complying. Level 2 and 3. These can only be lifted after the individuals actually serve the penalty period and have complied. Here are a few more reminders. Request date should always be the date you request the sanction, and the lift date for good cause should be the same as the request date. Here are a few do's and don'ts when it comes to sanctions. Do not lift a sanction because you thought the individual was going to comply. Do not lift a pre-penalty because the participant wants to comply or agrees to comply. Do request sanctions timely. There is a process called the forgiveness policy that allows prior sanctions to be forgiven if the participant has been compliant for 6 months or longer after the sanction has been lifted for compliance. The forgiveness policy allows the participant to begin again with a clean slate. And the forgiveness policy applies to only cash sanctions and does not apply to food stamp sanctions. The participant may receive temporary support services to comply and have the sanction removed, but would not be eligible for transitional support services upon removal of the sanction. However, in most cases, the individual will be assigned to an activity that does not require support services, such as childcare, as we do not currently offer applicants support services. Also, if a participant is sanctioned and scheduled to have a status change to transitional, the person will no longer be eligible to receive the transitional support services. DCF usually imposes sanctions that are requested during any month that TCA is received, and a sanction is appropriate. The sanction should be requested even if DCF has already closed their case. The only reasons why you wouldn't is if the case was closed due to becoming exempt, or the case was closed due to earnings. Normally, DCF will post sanctions on closed cases and, if needed, refer the participant back to workforce to establish compliance if needed. Remember, accountability is the critical element of both engagement and the sanction process. Always establish clear requirements. Hold the participant accountable for failures. Reward them for successes. Use customer-friendly language. No case manager jargon, and avoid terms like 2290 and pre-sanction. This concludes our session of the Welfare Transition Pre-Penalties and Sanctions. We hope that you have found added knowledge about our program services. If you have any further questions, please feel free to review our SOP or contact the Welfare Transition team. Thank you and enjoy your day.